This is live show week here. We're just in Boston with Marcus Smart. We all went out for a couple beers after the game to a local dive bar. And
the local pub. We had to hit the town.
We came across, thanks to you, we randomly came across a pub that had a golden tee. And so we had a nice little 18-hole match. There was some money on the line here. Jayson won. Our video guy, Jayson won.
It was extremely close.
And we all had to settle up. And the easiest way to do that, Tommy?
Cash App.
There you go. Always Cash App. All right, let's welcome in Jayson Tatum. Jayson, thank you so much for doing this, taking the time out of your day to sit down with us. We had you on, I think, our third episode.
Yeah, from the bubble.
In the bubble. A lot has happened since then. So we're really, really excited about this. Thanks for doing this, man.
No, I appreciate you guys for having me.
We're just going to get the Duke stuff out of the way, Tommy.
This is how it always goes.
We have to touch on the brotherhood, of course. Coach is in his last season. Jon Scheyer's taken over after this year. How was your experience at Duke? I was thinking about this the other day because I've been back to some practices. I know how my experience was. I talked to the older guys, the guys from the 80s and 90s. I feel like we probably had similar experiences to them, but I get the sense that the younger generation, the one and done generation, had a little bit of a different experience than we had.
Yeah, I think so. My experience was great. I absolutely loved my 1 year at school. In my young life, it was the best decision that I could have made. And I just think that it just really prepared me for everything. And I think more so the relationships that I have from school. Obviously the memories, the games, the practices, us getting kicked out of our locker room, shit like that. But just the memories and the relationships that I still have to this day, I think is the best part. Yeah,
I was going to ask you, in terms of the discipline part, did you guys have the 5 a.m. runs if somebody missed class? Was that in the protocol?
We didn't have the 5 a.m. runs if somebody got in trouble. I was there. I went to Duke 3 days after I graduated high school. So I was there summer session 1 and summer session 2. We had 6 freshmen. And Coach Will, I feel like every Friday at 6:15 in the morning, we ran the mile for the whole summer. So that was like the worst part of the conditioning. But for the most part, we had guys that, followed the rules. So we didn't have to wake up at 5 for discipline reasons.
Is there any perspective you have now being a little bit more distant from it, even from, the last time we had you on the show, in terms of like specific things you sort of took away either from Coach specifically or just you're talking about the connections and everything with the whole organization?
One thing that I have realized or thought more about is the older I've gotten, I'm still 23.
The older I've gotten.
But the older I've gotten, I've learned to be like I've a little bit more sympathetic for the athletes, especially the kids at Duke. People get on TV and you see things after they just lost to Virginia.
Bad loss.
Terrible loss.
Call it what it is. Bad loss.
But at the end of the day, what I think we forget sometimes is like most of those kids are 18, 19. And it's like the reality is, they just beat Carolina. So this coach's last time going to UNC, I'm sure that they were still hyped, 2 days ago from that win, that they might have overlooked Virginia at home. And while, coach was probably mad and it was a bad loss, that's kind of human nature. And it's like, 6 months ago, they were in high school. And I think we expect so much from them. And I was in that situation that you tend to forget that, they're still 18 years old.
Did it feel big to you? Did Duke feel big? Not necessarily the school, but the stage. Because for me at the time, it felt so big. And then when I got to the NBA, it felt much smaller. But when I was there, it was like living in a fishbowl. It was much harder than I expected, that part of it.
Yeah, it was. And I think, as a recruit, going to college, everybody wants to play on the biggest stage. And like, that's why you go to these big schools and you go to Duke until you get there and you realize that, we had these pro days that every scout came to. And our Midnight Madness is on ESPN, and our exhibition games, and how many media people we have after every game. And, they talk about it before you get there, but living in it and then having a bad game and having to deal with it is something you can't prepare for until you get there.
You mentioned getting kicked out of the locker room. So I want clarity on this story, because this is something that has happened a few times since I left. Did he kick you out of the locker room and then take all your stuff out of your locker, put it in a pile in the middle of the locker room, and then when you came for practice the next day, you had to wear non-Duke issued, usually they go to Walmart and get practice uniforms from Walmart. Is that what happened to you too?
More or less. Coach K had back surgery in like January of my freshman year. So I think he missed like 6 or 7 games, and Jeff Capel was the coach at the time. And we lost to North Carolina State at home. They had Dennis Smith Jr., but they weren't. They were terrible. We lose at home, and I remember after the game, coach or one of the assistants sent out a mass text and was like, everybody come to Coach K house right now. So after the game, we all go to his house, and we walk in, and he got like 3 rows of 5 chairs, 15 chairs. And he sits in the front, we all sit down, and he literally goes down the line and tells all of us about ourselves. And he basically told me that, I should just leave, commit for the draft now. Like, I don't want to be here. All you care about is the NBA. Like, he was just going down the line. And we all leave, and we get another text, and it was like, be at the locker room at 6:00 in the morning. So I'm like, damn, like, we're gonna have to run. We get to the locker room, and there's 2 trash bags at all of our locker. And the assistant coach was like, take everything out your locker. Like, don't leave anything. So I got 2 trash bags. I'm walking in my car. I put them in my trunk. We got practice at 1:45. And we try to go to the locker room, and there's a code. And the code has been changed. So essentially, we're locked out the locker room. And we go practice, and there's a pile of white T-shirts and these navy blue shorts. And we damn near played football for 2.5 hours, diving on the floor, hitting each other. We couldn't use our showers. We had to shower back at our room. And the freshmen had to wash all the T-shirts and shorts for like the next 3 days. There's some PTSD there. Just bringing back all the memories. I was down. I took my kids. It was their first game. I got 2 boys, 7 and 5. And it was their first Duke game. And we were sitting right behind the bench, where they put the former players. We were sitting right behind the bench. And there was a timeout, second half, and I could see it. I mean, the body language was bad on the court, and everybody runs back. You sit down and you wait for coach. So coach meets with Shire and Chris Carrawell and Nolan, and he comes back to the huddle, and all he says is he looks at each kid, and he says, "I hate your fucking faces." He's like, "Your fucking faces suck." And then he walks away. That was the timeout. And I thought to myself, man, how many times did that happen? Some similar version of that. He's big on body language, face. Like, if you're on the bench and he's watching film or something happens on the game and you don't like cheer loud enough, like he will point that out in film. If we're in practice and you walk from one station to the other, like he shows that in film the next day. Like, he is big on body language and posture and all those things.
I don't think this is necessarily the case with you, with the coaches you've had and success you've had since you came into the league. But like, do you guys both think that it's weird sometimes when you play there for a year, 4 years, whatever it is, and you get to the league, A, you don't have a coach that commands that respect or that authority. And then also B, like even the attention thing, like you go play in certain cities and like some fans don't really care. And it's almost like playing for Duke basketball is a bigger deal than playing, and I don't want to name specific places, but we all know what they are. Sacramento. Yeah.
Did I say that out loud? My bad. I think I've been fortunate, playing for the Celtics. Even when we go into small market arenas, sometimes half the arena is filled with Celtics jerseys. And, we always kind of
have a fan base wherever we travel to. So, that reminded me a lot like Duke. I think the coaching, the NBA is just different, right? The range of age on each team. You got 19-year-olds, you got 35-year-olds, people with families. Like, as a coach, you just have to approach it different than when you're coaching only 18, 19, 20-year-olds. And I think money plays a part. Like, it's kind of hard to yell at somebody like Coach K would if they make $35 million a year. Like, I think that plays a part as well.
It's across the board in college basketball and in college sports in general. The coach, the player-coach dynamic is much different than in the pros, and the coach inherently commands more respect and authority in college. Not to say that coaches don't command that respect and authority in the NBA, but it is more of an even, maybe a little favoring the players in terms of the relationship and how it works in the NBA. I was on a golf trip last week, and the guys I was playing with were asking me about my Duke experience, and I kind of went through my decision to go there at 16 years old. And at 37 now, it's wild to me that one of the most important decisions, and clearly one of the best decisions I ever made in my life, I made as a 16-year-old. It's actually wild to think about. And not just the basketball portion. Certainly I got better at Duke and I got to play on an amazing stage and got to play for an amazing coach and had amazing teammates and all that. But the alumni network, the brand association with Duke, the older I've gotten, I've realized how much weight that carries.
For sure. And I had this talk with somebody the other day. It is wild that at 16, that one decision, has a big impact on the rest of your life in a positive or negative way. Like you said, I'm very thankful that I made the right decision and choice. But I think we both know a lot of people that if they could go back 5 or 20 years on where they went to school, they would for sure, have picked something different.
Yeah. We'll move on to the Celtics now. We'll move on. You guys lost on January 6th to the Knicks. At the time, you were 18 and 21. You had a comment after the game, and I'm paraphrasing here. And the quote was, I look back to those years when we were going to the conference finals. I thought that was just normal, winning all of those games. Since you made that comment, since that game, you're 13 and 4. You're now up to 31 and 25. You currently have the best net rating in the East. You're the second best defense in the league. You're just 4.5 games back of first in the East. I've been talking about this all season. The East has felt wide open, and you could pretty much name 6 teams that had a chance to win the East. Now you guys are in that conversation. What do you think has changed over the last 17 games?
I think health and awareness. I think us being aware of, quite frankly, things we weren't doing right, like things we were messing up on. And I think health-wise, having our core group, having our starting lineup for the majority of these last, 17 or so games has made a world of difference. And I remember when I said that because this, especially in the beginning of the season, has been the toughest, I guess, up and down. We would go up 2 games above 500, then go down 2 games. And I remember my first year, we won 18 games in a row. And my second year, we were supposed to have the most talented team. And, my third year, I went back to the conference finals. I was spoiled. I thought this was like how it was supposed to be every year. And I think a little bit last year, but especially this year was kind of the first time I was like, all right, this is the other side of, the NBA. It was like, struggling a little bit and trying to figure it out. And it's not always happy days coming into practice. Everybody's on edge a little bit and we're frustrated, So I for sure remember saying that.
Did you take the success for granted? Do you feel like in a way you did take it for granted?
My first year for sure. Because, when you're a rookie, you don't know any better. I'm on the Celtics, and we got Kyrie, Irving, and Al, and JB, and Marcus Morris, and Terry, and Gordon, but he got hurt. I think this is just going to last forever, and we're going to win a championship because we have 17. Like I thought that was normal. I thought this was how it was supposed to be. Looking back on it, I didn't, I guess, cherish it as I probably should have, but at the same time, I didn't know any better.
I was gonna ask you about that 2018 run when you beat them and then you went 7.
Thanks, Tom.
I mean, we're just coming. So, you went 7 with Cleveland. We just did an ep with Desmond Bain last week, and we're talking about that team and basically how they're basically like so young that they don't even know where they are. They're just playing. Did you feel a little bit like with all the injuries and everything that you guys had that it was almost like that was just like house money? Like when you went to Philly, like they had all the pressure. You were just kind of there doing whatever.
Yeah. Kyrie got hurt after we had like 22 games or so, when we realized Kyrie wasn't, going to play anymore that season. And, what I've now realized is, when you go into a playoff series, you look at matchups. I think first, you kind of look at which team has the best player, right? And in those playoff series, we never had the best player. Maybe sometimes we didn't even have the second best player. We were all so young. So in that first series against Milwaukee, we were the 2 seed, but there still was some doubt. Like, they got Giannis, they got Chris Middleton. They should beat the wounded Celtics. And we took them to 7. Philly was when it kind of got scary a little bit. I'm gonna be honest. That was because we won 4-1. We easily could have got swept. We easily could have lost every single game. And if you go back and watch them, we easily could have lost every game. But we go up 3-0, we lose the 4th one, and JJ missed a shot or two in the game 5, which I appreciate, and we got a chance to go to the conference finals.
Wow, lots to unpack there. I do want to bring up one point. We may have discussed this when you came on last time, and I can't remember. But I do remember after Kyrie was declared out for the season, and obviously Gordon as well because of his ankle. There was some angling from some teams to get to that 7 seed. And I believe Milwaukee was in that boat. Like Milwaukee wanted that 7 seed. And for us, I'm going to be honest, we were right there with Cleveland 3-4 going down the stretch. We wanted that 3 seed because we wanted to play either you or the 7 seed in the second round. I'm glad you brought up the point too. I tell people this all the time. We fucked that series up. Look, y'all beat us pretty handily game 1. We had a real lead in the 4th quarter of every single game that we lost besides game 1. Mm-hmm. Game 2, we came out and killed you guys for most of the first half. I hit a jumper from the left wing, right in front of our bench to put us up. I think it was 51-31 or 53-31, something like that. And it was a 5-point game at halftime. Yeah,
we was down 22 in the first half, and we came back. But I do remember the last game of the season, we had already clinched the 2 seed. So we come in the locker room, and we had like 4 different TVs on. And it was like 3 different scenarios of like, if this team wins, we would play them. And I remember the Wizards were playing somebody. They were the 8th seed that year. And I think they had to win in order to play us. And I think we may have lost, or like we were like 1-3 against the Wizards that year. And I remember talking to Brad like a couple days before, and he was like, we want to get to the 7th seed because we want to play y'all. And we knew that, like, and we kind of took, that's one thing we took. We had that edge going into the first round, knowing that certain teams were trying to position themselves to play us, knowing that they felt like, it was going to be easy.
Did you get the feeling at a personal level that these teams knew what you could do at that point?
No. I don't think, like.
You weren't thinking you were just hooping, basically?
Yeah, like. I don't think I was. I mean, I'm sure. Yes, in the playoffs, everybody that starts and comes off the bench is on the scouting report. But I don't think like it was like, all right, we got to stop Tatum. No, it was like, you know, they play free, they're young, you know, they got guys that can make plays off the dribble. You know, don't go under on a couple of these guys, but it never crossed my mind. It was like, all right, we got to stop Tatum, you know, to have a chance.
We did a entire breakdown last time you were on. I remember forgive me, I've been out of the league since last June, but I think it's your stack action where you do the Iverson cut to the left wing.
We put that in against y'all.
And I mean, it was just destroyed us with it in multiple games. I think specifically game 3.
Game 3.
Yeah, in Philly. You in the second half, it was just an unstoppable play. Do you think at all? I know you're not even entering your prime yet, which is crazy. But do you think at all, looking back to your rookie year, those teams, and you think about all that has happened to the Celtics, all of the roster turnover, new coach this year, Danny's now with Utah. Do you think it's hard, even as good as you are, as good as Jaylen is, as good as Marcus Smart is, do you think it's hard to maintain a consistency of results without continuity in the ancillary pieces?
Yeah, I do. And I think each year is very unique in itself. Our chemistry was the best I've had my first year. But if I'm being honest, like, even if we would have beaten LeBron in Game 7, like we weren't gonna beat Golden State. I think my second and third year are two of them. Year 5 are my two most frustrating seasons looking back. Year 2, we were the most talented team in the NBA, and I believe that obviously even with Golden State. I think we split with them 1-1 that year because we only played them twice. And that was the year that KD got hurt and Klay Thompson got hurt and the Raptors went to the championship. And it's like, you know, obviously they had Kawhi and, you know, he played amazing. But like, for whatever reason, that bothers me that we couldn't figure it out because I know we had more than enough talent. And then the bubble year, my third year, when we lost to the Heat, we were winning every game. We lost in overtime in Game 1. We was up 14, I think, in the third quarter of Game 2. We win Game 3. We gave up a lead in Game 4. And in Game 6, we kind of ran out of gas. But, like, I think you have to, like, when you're in those moments, when you are that close, you really have to hone in of, like, you got to, like, think, like, this may be my last chance. And I think, you know, I was 21 at the time. And I remember when we lost, I was pissed because I felt like, you know, we could have and should have beat them. But the Heat were a really good team. But there was a part of me that was like, I got 15 more years. And it's like, I've blinked and it's year 5. And it's like, this should go a little faster than I thought.
Yeah. I was going to ask you one other thing about the rookie season. The LeBron dunk in Game 7. Obviously, everybody watching it at home went crazy like that. Did that feel like obviously at the time you're playing, you're not thinking about the significance of it or anything like that, but did you feel like that game, even though you guys lost, was a big moment for you, or just, you know, losing the frustration was there and you kind of didn't have any thought afterwards except, you know, frustration?
Both. I was fully aware of what
you had just done.
I had just done. Like, right after the game, I remember as soon as the game ended, you know, everybody, especially after the playoffs, you dap each other up, wish you the next, you know, good luck and stuff. And I remember I had talked to Brian for like a minute straight. We were talking, and in that moment, I realized what I had just done, how close we were, and that was kind of the like, all right, I'm gonna be pretty good for a while. like I think the world realized it. LeBron had realized it at that point. I was 20 years old. And I remember, like, obviously being upset. It was Game 7. You want to go to the finals. But, you know, I remember, like, you know, I'm going to be pretty good at this.
I want to follow up on that second year, that 2018-2019 team, because there's a lot of speculation about that season, about that locker room. And you just said, I think something to the effect of, we couldn't figure out. Why do you think that is? Why could that team never fully gel into what it could have been?
It was a combination of, you know, Kyrie and Gordon coming back. And, you know, they were, obviously we know what Kai's capable of, but, you know, Gordon was coming off an All-Star the year before and was and still is, you know, a very, very good player. But then you have myself and JB and Terry that, you know, naturally we wanted more. You know, we were young and, you know, we knew what we just, you know, accomplished and how close we got. You know, we wanted more. We wanted to be, you know, the guys. And everybody was, I think, a little, you know, resistant of, instead of like, no, like we're all playing for the same goal. We're all going to get paid. We're all going to be all-stars or whatever. And I think life would just be better if we all win, like if we win a championship. And I think everybody played a part in that. I know I did for sure. You know, as bad as I wanted to win, I wanted to be, all right, we all knew Kyle was the best player, but I wanted to be number 2. And you know, I take responsibility for, you know, some of those things. But just looking back on it, especially, you know, the Warriors not even being full strength in the championship, of like, you can't help but think like that could have been us.
To your defense, as a 20-year-old who just the previous year had the playoff run you had, I think it's human nature to want more at that age, to think you have this amazing runway, this very, very long runway where this championship window is huge. It's massive. I think that's just human nature. And I don't think that's necessarily a fault. I mean, you can certainly look back now and be like, oh, I would have done something different.
For sure.
It's human nature. When you watch the Hornets play now, though, are you like, fuck, man, I wish we had Terry. He's awesome. I love watching him play.
No, I've always been a fan of T-Row. And I think just the way that the Hornets play, like just how fast and free and how, you know, well they move the ball. You know, they're one of my favorite teams to watch. You know those Thursday nights, 7:00 league pass games. You know, I always like watching those guys play. I'm
actually surprised they're not on. They're not on national TV
because
more.
Of LaMelo, they should be.
They should. They're one of the most fun. They're actually in my top 3 league pass teams. Easy, easy.
Did you were talking about the bubble Heat series earlier? It's impossible to say this definitively, but do you feel like, looking back on it, being in the, like, if that series was a normal series and it wasn't down there, it might have ended differently?
Yes, I mean I would say, but even, you know what the problem was? Game 3 against Toronto. The Toronto series was the hardest playoff series I've ever been a part of. I even told those guys afterwards, like, nobody has ever made me work as hard or made it as tough on me for 7 straight games as they have. When you look at who they had Serge Ibaka, Marc Gasol, Fred VanVleet, Kyle Lowry,
Siakam's All-NBA year, second team All-NBA that year.
OG Anunoby, and Norman Powell. Norman Powell and Serge Ibaka came off the bench. They essentially only played 7 guys. And when you look at that lineup, there's not really somebody you can attack. Maybe Marc Gasol, he was a little older, but you know, when you go in a playoff series, you try to point out somebody to attack.
I wasn't going to say it.
Late in my career, I was that guy.
Maybe he might have been, but Toronto didn't have anybody. Like, they all were defensive minded, scrappy, long arm, tough defenders. And for 7 straight games, they made, like, I was exhausted after every game. And what the problem was, game 3, we were up 2. It was 2-0. Game 3, we were up 2 points with 0.8 seconds left. We go zone. We had some miscommunication. Only thing that can beat us is a 3. They throw the overhead pass across the court, right in the pocket. OG throws it up and it goes in. I literally could not eat for 2 days. And game 4, like, I'm so antsy. I want to beat them so bad. We doing out of characteristic things, and we end up losing. So now it's 2-2. When we were a second away from being up 3-0, and then you know it's basically over. So they take us to 7. Like, it wasn't easy at all. It was like the hardest 7 games I've had to play. And then now we play in Miami, and it's like we giving up leads. Guys a little tired. I ain't gonna lie, that one was frustrating.
It's not just playing the Heat, or not just it's the build up from that 7-game series, and then going and having to play a team like the Heat that have so many movement sets, so you're already exhausted. I always tell people we blew that 3-1 Houston lead in the conference semifinals in 2015, but it was the series before that had really taken it out of us. It was that San Antonio series.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point, that was, for me, the hardest series of my career. Defending champs, took 7 games, took a CP runner over Tim Duncan with point whatever to beat them. It took everything. And when we then turn around and we lose that game 6 at home, we're in that game 7. Blake and I have talked about this a bunch. I've never been more tired in my career. We would come out of timeouts and just look at each other and be like, yo, I've got nothing left. And I mean, you know this, like I was always in shape in my career. Mm-hmm. I prided myself on that. I've never been as exhausted, but it was the series prior that had taken so much out of us. Did you had a little bit of a bigger initial jump on the scene than Jaylen did. And I know he's older than you. You guys were different draft classes. He had a little bit of a slower start to his career. When you first got there, was it pretty obvious that he could be as good as he's been for the last few years? Yeah, for sure. When I was in college, like I've known JB since high school, so I knew like the player he was in high school, and you know everybody's pretty good in high school, but you know he went to Cal. You know those West Coast college games, I never really stay up to watch, but I would watch the Celtics. You know when they were on TV, and that was when IT was averaging 30. And I remember my first week of getting to Boston, and it was before training camp, so some of the guys were in, we playing pickup and stuff. And 2 things stood out to me. I didn't realize how good Terry was. Like, in an open gym setting at the time, I remember calling like my friends and family back home, and they like, how pickup going? How's Kyrie? I'm like, you know, Kyrie's amazing, what's his name? But I'm like, Terry is like ridiculous. Like, they should like let him do more. And I realized the same thing about JB. I'm like, there are a handful of guys that could go from any team and be who they are. But there's a majority of guys that I think the right situation brings out the best in them. And, you know, JB was a rookie then, and, you know, they had a lot of veteran guys his first year, so he didn't get as much opportunity. And that's all I really credit, I guess, his slower start to. But he's one of the most hardworking guys that I know. And I think the best thing for his career and mine is being on the same team and, you know, relatively same age and position, and pushing each other just every day in the games and in practice, working out together. You know, I think that's been very beneficial for both of us. There's been chatter. There's been a contingent of people that have, in the media, fans, NBA Twitter, that have talked about breaking you guys up, trading one of you. Do you talk with JB about that? Is there an open dialogue about that?
Yeah. We've had plenty of talks. I think it's really picked up this year, especially in the beginning of the season. And, you know, we had plenty of talks of like, Like we asked each other, like, yo, do you want to be here? And we both was like, yeah. Like, and he was like, bro, I don't understand. And I was like, man, if you really think about it, we've had way more success together than, you know, this year and you know, what we didn't accomplish last year. JB's been in 3 conference finals, I've been in 2. And like you said, I think we're both still very far from our prime. And I think what people don't understand is like, all right, if you want to break this up, the grass is not always greener. Like, there's not a lot of guys in the NBA like JB. Like, so, or if you want to get rid of me, like, you know, not to toot my own horn, but I think I'm one of the best players. So I couldn't imagine why you wouldn't want to have 2 of the best players that are under 25, you know, on your team. And yeah, there are certain rough patches throughout the season, but we've won way more games together than we've lost.
What was your sort of reaction individually, of course, and you can address if your team talked about it, but what was your sort of reaction individually when Marcus made those comments earlier in the season about you and JB and you guys needing to pass the ball?
It caught me off guard, for sure. And I think what you have to, I guess, understand, I think with being in the NBA is, especially sometimes after, you know, we had just blown a 18-point lead or something to Chicago. Like, this is the beginning of the season. We probably like 2-5. You know, everybody's frustrated. We all on edge a little bit. So when I seen it, I was like, I seen it. I wasn't angry. I wasn't mad or anything. I just waited till the next day, and I saw Smart at their facility, and we sat down and talked. And I think it was a very it was a great talk, actually. You know, we'd had some time to sleep. You know, the adrenaline was going from the game, and you know, he apologized for, you know, what he said, and you know that was something he shouldn't have said in the media, and that they got his words mixed up or whatever. And I didn't take offense. You know, I started off by saying, listen, bro, I'm not perfect. Like, I make mistakes. I still got a long way to go from where I'm trying to get to. But, you know, I think we ended the conversation on, you know, we in this together. We're all on the same team, and we trying to figure it out. And, you know, obviously saying certain things like that in the media doesn't help anybody's case, because obviously that's all they talked about for the next week or so when it was referring to Celtics. But wasn't the end of the world. No harm, was no foul, and you know we're past it now.
Yeah, I think I'm not just saying this, Tommy, because he went to Duke. But I think the amount of criticism, attention, critique given to you specifically and your shot profile as a young player in this league, I don't quite remember at any point in my career people nitpicking about a 20-year-old or I mean, it's been going on since your second and third year, that people are constantly nitpicking your shot profile, the shots you take. And I tell people this all the time, but as I wasn't this guy, but as a shot creator, what is a good shot and what is a bad shot? When you have the skill set that you have, there's not really a line. It's all the same. It's because of the confidence, the ability, your size, your handle, your step back, all that stuff. It's part of who you are as a player. And we talked about Russ a few weeks ago, and we can sit here and nitpick any player. You can break down any player. There's flaws to everybody. And so with any great player, you're still going to you want to take the greatness. You want to take the greatness and just live with whatever thing you can nitpick. How much do you actually think about that? Because I can't remember what year it was. I think it was your third year, the beginning of the year. It was like, oh, he's driving more. or he's eliminated the Kobe shots. Like, this was on every single national broadcast. And I know Drew and you watch a ton of film, and do you guys get in the lab in the off season, in season, whatever. So how much of that are you actually thinking about? How much do you pay attention to it? Does it actually affect what you do on the court in a game?
There's a fine line between paying attention to it and letting it affect you. Everybody in the NBA hears everything that somebody says about you. Like, I got Twitter, I got Instagram, I watch TV. Even if I don't see it, people send it to you. Like, I see everything that is said about me, good, bad, or indifferent. And I think the bigger you get, the more attention or critique that you receive. And I think it's part of it. I think the mentality to have is they don't talk about the players that they don't care about, right? So they're saying something good or bad about you. That means you're somewhat doing your job, because if they're, continue to talk about you. The only time I let it affect me, I remember last year when it was in the playoffs. So playoffs might have been over, and everybody was coming out with their All NBA ballots and podcasts and who they were voting for. And, I had $30 million on the line to make it. Now, I specifically remember one person saying, I'm not a fan of his shot selection, so I just couldn't put him on my All NBA ballot. And I was baffled. Because if you think about it, if you think about it, the way that it's set up, right, for the All NBA stuff, and a lot of guys have incentives for making All NBA, and everyone knows I didn't make it last year. I lost $30 million or whatever. The fact that somebody can have that thought and basically cost someone $30 million, forget about me. Say the next rookie extension guys that come in. I think that has to change. Because there's no criteria set for the media, for the voters, on who they should vote for. It's all opinion based. There's no he should have to play this many games, or they should be in the playoffs or average this many points. It's all I like this guy a little bit more, or certain things like that. And I think there's just a little too much on the line for that.
Do you think that even the narrative with you, like media, fans, whatever, people got spoiled a little bit because of what we've been talking about, where it's they forget what you did your rookie year a little bit. And so all of a sudden they're expecting, it's they didn't go to the conference finals, so he flopped. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter anything else that happened because you didn't reach a thing that, there's more to do than just you. You can't get to the conference finals by yourself. That because of that, it's the expectations sort of outgrew what is actually realistic for what, you as a solo person can do.
Oh, I believe that wholeheartedly. Some of the things I see and read is, I think, just beyond me. For instance, last year, I think I averaged 26, 7, and 4, right? And I'm certain you can't find one person on the media that said I had a monster year, right? We 7th seed, 2 games above 500. It was whatever. I wasn't an MVP candidate or anything like that. But then there are guys you that would average, 19 and 10, and they're at 19, 10, and 4, and then you could go on TV and it's they are having a monster season. And I'm not talking about a guy like Chris Paul. He's different, right? Everyone knows what he brings to the table, and it doesn't always show up on the statistics.
In the counting stats, correct. Yep.
But it's sometimes I think back and I like talk to my mom at home. I'm like, Mom, I would probably have to average 30 and we'd have to be a top 2 seed for anybody to go on TV to say he's having a monster year. And I think that's part of the, they're just, I guess, used to it.
Well, I think you mentioned feeling spoiled, a sense of being spoiled early in your career because of the 2 conference finals in the first 3 years. And I think as fans and probably the media, like we got spoiled because of how good you were right away. That's probably true. And I think to Tommy's point, I do think the narrative around this certainly matters when we talk about All NBA, when we talk about Most Improved Player, Coach of the Year. You're not necessarily comparing apples to apples. You really are. It's the story around a player, the story around a team, like all of that matters when we get to the end of the year. I guess my issue and sort of my cosign to your point about it having to change is when a player like Jayson signs his max rookie extension at the end of his 3rd year and has some incentive tied to it. You can't tell me that Jayson didn't do his job in his 4th year. You did exactly what you were supposed to, and it being tied to someone's opinion of what your job was. I agree with you. I think something's got to change. Obviously, you guys get more money. It's like that's you now. There's a rookie super max. So it used to be you just sign a max contract as a rookie. Now you all have a chance to sign a super max rookie extension. But I do think I feel for you in the sense that you can't tell me that you didn't reach or exceed expectations in your 4th year based on that contract, and you should have been rewarded justly.
Yeah, I think, and this is like honestly the first time I've really had a chance to talk about it. There's so much that bothered me with that whole situation, right? I think the narrative was Jayson didn't make All NBA, he loses $30 million, right? And from that headline, nobody's going to feel bad for me. Like, I still got $175 million. Like, nobody's going to feel bad, and I don't want anybody to feel bad about the money part. Like, my lifestyle hasn't changed. It's not about that. I think just as the results came out and I looked at how people voted, what went into the media members, their process of voting, that was the frustrating part. The opinion of somebody or not holding the same, like holding one person accountable to the other, and like the votes kind of were wrong. I got 20 votes as a guard, where if they would have put all my votes as a forward, I would have beat out some of the forwards. And I had more votes. I
didn't even realize that.
I had more votes.
You're not a guard, by the way.
I had more votes than Kai, but he made the 3rd team All-NBA as a guard because he had more votes as a guard than me. But if you tally up our votes, I had more than he did. It's just so much gray area, right? Like, I missed 7 games last year. 5 of them were because of COVID. One was the last game of the season because we already clinched the 7th spot, right? We made the playoffs. I scored 54 or 5 times last year. Like you said, I did my part. I was more frustrated that a group of people came together and thought that 15 people had a better season than me last year. I was more like upset about not making it. Money aside,
right? The recognition, we talk about validation all the time. We talked about with CP recently. The validation, right? Yeah. It's a stamp. It's a stamp of approval to make All NBA. I get it. I get it. And the frustration's there. And to your point, look, this could happen this year with DeMar, with Jimmy. How are we voting on them? Is DeMar a guard? Is he a 3?
Exactly.
Is Jimmy a guard? Is he a 3? That whole system. I just think. Look, let's have the 15 best players. Those guys get All NBA. Let's vote on the 15 best players, regardless of position.
I'm all for that because when you do positions, like you said, there might be half the media that doesn't know if DeMar is a 2 guard or if he's a small forward, and that could mess his votes up.
Position thing's antiquated. It's antiquated. Yeah. So DeMar probably in traditional basketball is a 3. on that team, he functions as the primary playmaker. So in the traditional sense, he's the one, right?
Exactly.
But how do we vote on that? Let's just vote on DeMar being all NBA because he's all NBA this year.
Exactly. I think that's how it should be.
Well, I was also going to say, in the playoffs last year, you played a team with 3 Hall of Famers on it, and you put 50 on their head in one of the games. Like, there's only so much it's hard to win a playoff series like that with who you guys had versus who you're going up against. Like, that's not a normal opponent.
Right. And everybody, I think most of the media members said that, the ones that didn't vote for me said that we underachieved. And it's like, all right, last year was probably the weirdest season in NBA history. Like, from all the protocols, from playing in a 20,000 seat arena with 50 people in it, like, none of us were used to that. None of us were used to waking up, testing in the morning. Sometimes shoot around had to be canceled because the tests weren't back in time. Like, everybody's routine was thrown off. And then a lot of us caught COVID. We were the team most affected by COVID last year. I missed 19 days from the day I caught it to the day I came back. And 4 of our games had to get postponed because we didn't have enough people. And I think it took me 4 weeks, honestly, to kind of feel back normal again.
Post-COVID.
Post-COVID. Yeah. And, when I came back. So I just think last year was a lot to digest. And it was the weird, it had to be the weirdest season in NBA history. And yet we were labeled as underachievers. And it was like, hold on, all right, yeah, we still made the playoffs, right? But it was a lot more that went into us losing games than what happened on the court.
I basically gave everybody a pass, partially because I wanted to give myself a pass for what probably would be considered the worst season of my career. But look, I had two worst months of my life were January and February. Until we got to All-Star break, because I was alone. Again, they put the protocols in place at the beginning of a 2-week West Coast trip for us where we couldn't leave our hotel and couldn't leave our apartment. Man, it's just, I gave everybody a pass last year. I have no opinion. Whatever you did last year, I have no opinion on. If you were awesome, you're a sick fuck. And if you sucked, you're probably still good. It's whatever. I wanted to ask you about your clutch shots. And there's a bunch of them. I watched a ton today. And some obviously were fresh in my mind. Do you have a favorite either game winner or clutch shot that you've made?
Most people want me to say the one last year against Giannis, first game of the season. I guess, I'll always remember that. But the weird part was I turn around, I'm screaming, and nobody is in the stands. Nobody was there. Had it been, a regular opening season night, that would for sure be number one. I think maybe my 3rd year against the Knicks over RJ. It was, first half of the season. That might be my favorite one, just because, and he got me back this year. But, RJ obviously went to Duke, and I've known him for a while. So it was a little personal right there.
The PG shot, when you hit him with the step back between the legs and he fell, that was empty arena as well?
No. That was
was that 2 years ago?
That was 2 years ago.
That's okay, yeah. And did you push off on that play?
I stepped on his foot. I didn't push off. So he fell. I can't take the credit for crossing him because I did. I stepped on his foot, so he lost his balance. But that can't be number one either because we lost.
Yeah,
we lost that game. But that was a hell of a game. That was the first time that season PG and Kawhi played with each other. We were in LA. We went to overtime. That was a really good game.
When you have one of these, like the 51 points against the Wizards a couple weeks ago, one of these games where you just are going crazy, do you know right away, or is it like, oh, second quarter, okay, I feel like this is going to be a special night?
I knew that day. I knew at halftime. I think that was the most points I ever scored in the first half. I had like 31. And that was like, all right, if you don't score 50, like, it's on you. Like, you messed this up. I think my favorite one, the one I scored 60 against the Spurs, we were down 28 points at halftime. And I remember Brad came in the locker room. He was disgusted with us. Like, he was, and to his credit, we were playing terrible. But I remember I had 25 at halftime. And he came and he said, he basically was like, starters, like, y'all got 5 minutes to show, like, if we could make something happen. If not, like, we're going to get the young guys a chance. So that one caught me off surprise because, I'm thinking, like, damn, we down 29 points. Like, it's over. And we cut it to 14 at the end of the third quarter. And we go into overtime. And for my 60th point, I catch it at the free throw line, take a dribble, and I make a layup, and they foul me. And they didn't give me the continuation. If they would have, I would have had 61. I would have broke Larry Bird's record. But I just got the tie-in. But I'll take it.
Yeah. I'll take it too. Tommy, are you hungry?
Always.
Me too. But I bet you don't feel like getting in the car to go find something to eat. And I definitely know you don't have the time to spend hours in the kitchen preparing something.
That is correct.
Well, DoorDash is your answer. DoorDash makes all those issues go away because they connect you with everything you want, whenever and however you want it. Get what you want to eat right now and right to your door. And along with the restaurants you love, you can now get groceries and other essential items delivered with DoorDash. Get drinks, snacks, and other household items in under an hour.
With over 300,000 partners, you can support your neighborhood go-tos or choose from your favorite national restaurants like Popeyes, Chipotle, and Cheesecake Factory. Ordering is super easy, and your items will be left safely outside your door when you choose contactless delivery drop-off.
For a limited time, our listeners can get 25% off and zero delivery fees on their first order of $15 or more when you download the DoorDash app and enter code JJ. That's 25% off, up to $10 value, and zero delivery fees on your first order when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store and enter code JJ. That's an insane deal. Don't forget, that's code JJ for 25% off your first order with DoorDash. Subject to change. Terms apply. Hey y'all, don't let aches and pains keep you away from your fitness goals. New Plus CBD pain relief topicals soothe sore muscles and joints so you power through your workout and bounce back faster between sessions. I myself know all too well how aches and pains can slow you down, and the Sport Recovery Stick has really helped my body feel great and respond exactly the way it should.
Plus CBD pain relief topicals feature a potent blend of CBD and menthol and camphor to keep you pain-free and performing at your best. It doesn't matter if you're competing at the highest level or just trying to stay fit, the Plus CBD Sport Recovery Stick and Penetrating Pain Cream are the perfect complements to your training routine.
All Plus CBD products are third-party tested and fully traceable from seed to shelf. That's a big reason why they're the #1 selling natural hemp extract in the U.S. And don't forget, Plus CBD also offers sleep gummies to help make restless nights a thing of the past, among several other products. So make the right choice. Shop now at pluscbdoil.com and enter promo code JJ for 40% off your first order. That's pluscbdoil.com, promo code JJ, 40% off. Do it. The last topic I wanted to ask you about, and this could be a broad thing we could talk about, but I really want to relate it to you, and it's something that I say all the time, in that young players like yourself, as I got later in my career, you guys coming in had way more skills than us. And we just had Draymond on the show. We just had CP on the show. They talked a ton about the intellectual side of basketball, knowing the game. And one of the complaints or observations, depending on how you look at it, from my generation of player is that your generation of player can do way more things on the court than us, basketball-wise. Dribbling, step back, drop dribble, do a step, all that stuff. We were not trained from 13 on. We did not know how to do that. And some of us never picked that stuff up. I'll throw Draymond in there too. But But the complaint, the observation is you guys can do all this stuff, but you don't know the game. And certainly there's always a learning curve for anybody entering the NBA because the NBA is so different than any college basketball or high school basketball. Where are you on that learning curve of knowing the game? Obviously, you came in with an incredible skill set, but where are you on that learning curve?
Honestly, I think I'm light years ahead of where I was the first day I walked through the door. And what I tell people is, as much as you learn from your coaches and guy you watch film with and stuff, I learned a lot from players I play against. And I think coming out of college, like a 2-for-1, right? Everybody in the league knows end of the first, second, third quarter, or whatever. If you got the ball with 40 seconds, you roughly want to shoot it around 30, 35, get a good shot so you can get the ball back. I had never heard of a 3-for-2. And the person I learned that from was Chris Paul. Like I learned that from hearing him say it when he was in, the first time I heard him say it was my third year. He was in OKC. And I asked him after the game, I was like, what the hell is a 3-for-2? He was like, basically you shoot it at 105, right? 105, 103. So then you get the ball back 2 more times. Like I literally asked him after the game, like, wow, you say what's up before you go to the locker room. And it's things like that like, it's so valuable because Chris Paul is one of the smartest players, right? Somebody that like you would love to have on your team, and I absolutely hate playing against. I hate playing against Chris. But it was like, I just remember asking him that after the game of like, after I was like, damn, like he really has this figured out. Because I had never heard of a 3-for-2. And he's been doing this for 17 years.
He's a real sicko.
He's a sicko.
He's a real
do you feel like that this is one of the advantages of the Team USA experience? It's just being with all these guys and getting to just soak up knowledge from guys that like you probably know just from over the years playing against, but you're not necessarily like on the bus with and eating with and spending a significant amount of time with. Yeah,
that was the biggest reason I wanted to go play USA basketball, mainly for like, the guys that you compete against all the time. Now you get a chance to like get to know them, pick their brain a little bit and just spend time with them. It was a little tougher than I thought. I was a little naive of, we got Kevin Durant and Damian Lillard and Devin Booker and myself and Draymond and Bam, like, man, we just roll the ball out there. We're going to win. And shit, we lost. We lost, 2 games in Vegas, first game in Tokyo. But I think the off-the-court stuff of, obviously we were on lockdown, and our families couldn't come. So just being in the lounge with each other, playing cards, talking, sharing stories, being in a shoot around with Draymond and, he basically thinks he's the coach. But, he has that respect and everybody, especially on the defensive end, is going to listen to, what he has to say. But, things like that, you can't put a price on this, how valuable that was.
I'm very appreciative that earlier in this interview, you admitted that you see everything and hear everything. You pay attention to that stuff. It's inescapable. And any NBA player, any professional athlete, really any public figure, unless you're detached from a television, social media, it's inescapable. You see it. You see it. So I appreciate it. Earlier, just as we were sort of doing the background stuff, I typed in Jayson Tatum in Google. And one of the neat features, this is fairly recent, but one of the neat features now about Google is when you type something in, it'll have, your NBA.com landing page or your ESPN.com landing page. Maybe if there's a significant news story, it'll have that at the top of the page. You scroll down a little bit, there's frequently asked questions about whatever you've just Googled. And so I'm just like, I looked at the questions and, is Jayson Tatum an all-star this year, right? What is Jayson Tatum's contract? The third one, did Jayson Tatum fix his back tattoo? So, like, what? I had no idea this was a thing. But apparently you did get the apostrophe. You have fixed it.
I did. I did. Oh man. I wasn't expecting that. Yeah, I did. I got a from the left to the right, a God's will tattoo. And it was the first back piece I got. It took 6.5 hours. And by the end of it, forget that. The last hour and a half, I was so ready to be done. I think anybody that has tattoos know they get to a point where sometimes it hurts so bad. You like, all right, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, let's just get this shit over with. And that backfired. We started at like 11:30 at night. I didn't finish till like 7 in the morning. And I was just like, we'll fix it next time. Like, I was like, bro, I'm done. Like, my back is on fire, my body hurts. And I wish I would have took 30 more minutes. But you
or just not because you posted the first. Yeah, you posted it, which I get it, man. Like, I posted my tattoos too. When I got my sleeve, like, I did the whole thing. I was, piece by piece. It was 4 sittings. I get it, man. I get it. I just got a kick out of that.
Yeah, that was.
I have a different change the tone a little bit. We talked to a lot of guys about this, and I'm curious what you think, because I don't think we talked to you about this last time. In terms of young guys in the league, take the Celtics out of it. Who do you like watching? Like, who do you see as like, okay, not like young Jayson, but who is like, okay, this person is doing something that feels different than the rest of the league?
Young, like younger than me?
Yeah, or just like, I mean, like.
There's not a ton of guys.
There's not a ton of. They don't. By the way, they don't have to be like technically younger than you, but it's more just like guys that fly under the radar for reasons we've talked about, in the last hour. They just don't get as much attention as you've gotten.
Oh, so under the radar, not like Luka.
Yeah, they don't have to be 19. They just have to be guys that are like not all stars, not on Team USA.
I think he's on people's radar now. I think Darius Garland. I've known him since he was in high school. I've always been a fan. And Evan Mobley and Scotty Barnes.
Those are 3 good ones right there.
Evan Mobley and Scotty Barnes are like Toronto and Cleveland got that right. Those two are special.
We appreciate the time. Before we let you go, I understand that you have a new candy that you've launched. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So I have partnered and invested and become a co-founder of a sugar-free candy company called Sidestep Sweets. Partnered with a company out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. And it's coming out next year, 2022. I think as my son has gotten older, right? It's a lot more organic. You want your kid to be a child and eat candy and stuff like that. But I took him to the dentist today, right? He didn't have any cavities. I think everybody has cavities, right? At some point. But I think as a parent, you try to like prevent all those things. And I think business-wise, I enjoy doing things that are organic to me and myself. And, I think the world we live in now, we're trying to be as innovative as possible and as healthy as possible. And, trying to make the world and, the fun space for our kids a better place. 2022 coming out with a sugar-free candy company, and I'll make sure JJ gets.
I was gonna say, just send some my way. I'll get some to Tommy.
We need it.
I get it, man. Yeah, I got 2 young boys, like I said, and as a parent, that's one of the daily challenges is literally monitoring their sugar intake.
Right.
They have a very specific palate, so I get it. So congrats on that, man. And Jayson, we appreciate the time, man. This has been awesome.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you having me.